Name recall fails because proper names are structurally unique linguistic dead ends lacking synonyms stored within a dedicated brain network that can glitch independently of our general memory. A direct pattern-interrupting comparison between rare individuals with perfect autobiographical memory who still fail to recall names, establishing that name forgetfulness is a structural coding flaw rather than a standard memory failure. There are people alive right now who can tell you the exact weather on a random Tuesday 19 years ago. Ask them what day of the week it was, what they ate, what they were wearing. They'll get it right. Now ask one of them the name of someone they met an hour ago. They'll blank, just like you. This isn't a memory problem. It's something much
Expect some light rain falling across the
stranger.
region.
You've probably heard that names are forgettable because they're arbitrary or because you wasn't paying attention. That's true, but it's the shallow version of the story. The real story involves brain damage that deletes only names, a psychology study involving Brad Pitt and people with genuinely perfect memories who are still terrible with names. Think of it this way. Your brain has a separate file just for names, and it breaks first. In rare cases, damage to a specific spot in the brain, the left temporal pole, produces something neurologists call proper name anomia. Patients with this condition can describe a person in total detail, their job, their personality, their relationship to them, even recognize their face perfectly, but the name itself is just gone, not fuzzy, gone. One documented patient retained rich, detailed knowledge about people he could no longer name at all. Here's why this matters. Proper names are what linguists call pure referring expressions. A regular word like teacher describes a category. You instantly know things about it. A name refers to exactly one person and nothing else. That fragile, one-to-one connection is precisely what breaks first. First, it gets stranger. One patient with a progressive brain condition lost almost all ability to retrieve names, except the first letter. She could tell you a name started with J and nothing else about it. Her comprehension of the name was completely normal. Production was almost totally blocked, except for that one fragment. This is quite literally the neurological signature of that. It's on the tip of my tongue. I know it starts with a feeling. It's not a vague impression. It's a partial data retrieval from a system that's failing in a very specific, literal way. In 2004, researchers ran a study with a name that's honestly a little funny. They found that if you say the word Pitt, like a cherry pit, shortly before someone tries to recall the name Brad Pitt, they're significantly more likely to get it right. The sound itself acts as a kind of key that unlocks the name. And here's the twist. This effect was much stronger in older adults than younger ones, which tells us something surprising. Older brains aren't just worse at names, they're relying on a different, more fragile retrieval route that younger brains don't need as much. Across every age studied, proper names are the single most common thing people get stuck on. But it's not random which names trip you up. Diary studies tracking real memory blocks over weeks found the names people got stuck on were overwhelmingly people they hadn't spoken to in a while. In other words, a name isn't a fact you either know or don't. It's more like a rope bridge. Every time you don't use it, a plank quietly falls out. Here's one almost nobody talks about. Researchers paired people up and asked each of them to list every person they could think of. Friends, family, celebrities, anyone. Every single participant recalled more people who happened to share their own first name than their partner did, even when the partner was a spouse or best friend. Your own name is quietly acting like a filter on your memory, making anyone who shares it slightly easier to recall, which means the way you remember other people is, in a small way, always about you. Normally, when you're given a list to remember, you're best at recalling the first few items. Psychologists call this the primacy effect. But when researchers ran this test using proper names instead of ordinary words, the pattern didn't hold the same way. Names appear to bypass the standard rules that govern how your memory organizes a sequence of information, which is more evidence that your brain isn't storing names as harder words, it's storing them in an entirely different system. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this should change how you think about all of this. There's a rare condition called Highly Superior Autobiographical Memory, HSAM. People with it can recall the exact day of the week for almost any date in their life, along with vivid personal detail going back decades. You'd assume these are just people with great memories in general, They're not. Studied and confirmed, people with HSAM are no better than average at remembering things like faces or phone numbers. Their extraordinary ability is locked to their own personal timeline. It does not transfer to names or to other people's information at all, which means the person with the most extraordinary memory ever documented would still forget your name at a party. That's not a comforting platitude, that's a measured, replicated finding. This is where it gets almost eerie. There are documented patients who can name every object and place around them perfectly, but cannot name a single person they know. And there are other patients with the exact opposite problem. They can name people just fine, but struggle badly with objects and places. When two abilities can be independently switched off like that, it tells researchers these aren't the same skill running at different speeds. They're genuinely separate systems, wired into different parts of the brain. One more strange detail. When you're blocked on a name, sometimes the wrong name keeps forcing its way into your head instead. Researchers call these persistent alternates. You know it's wrong, but it won't leave. Oddly, older adults get blocked on names more often overall, but experience fewer of these stubborn wrong name intrusions than younger people. Aging doesn't just make this problem worse, it changes its shape. Here's the through line connecting everything you just heard. Almost every word in your vocabulary has a backup route to it, a synonym, a related concept, a category. Names don't. There's no substitute for Brad Pitt the way there's a substitute for annoyed or chair. If the exact sound doesn't surface, there's nothing else to reach for. That's not a flaw in your memory. That's a flaw baked into what a name is. So the next time you forget someone's name 3 seconds after hearing it, you're not broken, you're not rude, and you're not even unusual. You're running into one of the most narrowly specific weak points in the entire human memory system. A weak point so specific it can survive being the only thing wrong with an otherwise perfect memory. Even the most remarkable memory ever recorded couldn't fix it, so maybe stop apologizing for it and just ask them to repeat it. Subscribe. Subscribe to explore more psychology loops and cognitive glitches your brain hides from you. Now that you know why your brain fails to log names, wait until you find out why it can create entirely fake, vivid memories of events that never even happened to you, and how a simple 3-second trick can make you remember things you never saw. What's the most stubborn imposter name your brain has ever locked onto when you tried to remember someone? Let's talk about it in the comments.